That's why it really helps to look within. So I say, if you look within, you will never be without. Once you spend some time focusing on you and your needs, like trying to bring some peace into your spirit, that's when you'll feel the fullest. A lot of times we may feel lonely if we're not around people, or even if we are around people, we can still feel lonely because we are not getting the connection that we really desire. But if you learn how to spend time with yourself in a peaceful way, in a healing way, then you'll be fine. I tell people all the time, the greatest peace comes when you shut out the world for a moment and just really spend time with yourself.
Welcome to Normalize the Conversation. I'm your host, Francesca Reicherter, and today I'm joined by Dr. Makeba Morgan Hill, an intuitive personal strategist, spiritual coach, author, and the founder of Dr. Makeba and Friends, helping individuals reconnect with their inner light and divine purpose. In this episode, Dr. Makeba explores how spirituality can be a powerful tool for healing. She shares how meditation, asking for guidance, and staying open to answers can help us find peace, trust the journey, and take intentional action toward emotional wellness. Thank you so much for joining me. I am very excited for our conversation, but before we begin, I just want to check in. How are you really?
Thank you for asking. I'm good, really good. It's been an interesting week because of the energy. Whenever the full moon is coming, it feels like a lot. And so this week was a lot, but I'm feeling really good today.
Oh, I love how honest you are. I love to hear it because energy does impact us. And then to be able to recognize that, and then also today is good, is so amazing and so important. And I know for me, sometimes it's hard when it feels like a lot is going on to find moments of like peace and serenity within a moment. I just kind of overgeneralize that everything feels chaotic, and then I get stuck in that.
Gotcha. We have to focus on the good and the bad. The good and or at least acknowledge the good and the bad. I find a lot of people in my work, they really acknowledge when they're feeling low energy or when they're feeling bad, like they're feeling terrible about something. It's like that has the more intense feeling, the more intense reaction. So when I do ask them to just kind of pause a minute and think about all the things that they have to be grateful for, it changes the mood, it changes the tone, it changes the energy. So
yeah, it really does, being able to acknowledge the good. And like you said, the bad does take over. It feels really bad. And it's not fun to dwell in it, but it just, for me, it feels like it makes more sense to feel the emotions that feel so big right now. It's so hard to kind of, I always say push them aside, but to make space for the other emotions that also exist. It's to let the big ones, the not fun ones, to take over and to just sit and dwell in them. Yeah. And almost torture myself in a way, because I am also aware that it was have to let them take over. But it's like I allow myself to kind of get consumed by it sometimes.
Yeah. I really think that culturally, that's how we are trained. We're trained when we're little kids to feel bad about stuff, So if you feel bad about it, that's a punishment. And so we end up punishing ourselves in that way throughout our lives. Like if we do anything that is a mess up, or if someone upsets us, we just sit in this emotion of distress, and we don't have to. Like you said, we just don't have to. It's a choice.
It is, and we don't realize it because, like you said, we're kind of brought up in that. And then I know for me, a big thing has been making time for me doesn't have to be selfish. I don't want to make myself feel guilty for doing something for me instead of for work. But a thing that's not like immediately due, that doesn't need to be done, that I'm pushing a deadline that's impacting someone else's work. That I respect need slippers at times. But if it's something that's not immediate deadline, that's not actually very, very important, if I put myself above it, I still feel guilty. I said like, oh, I should have been doing that instead. An example, this past week have gone out to dinner a few nights with friends, and the next day I kept saying, oh, I should have been getting work done. 9 p.m. I should not have been out having dinner. I should have been getting work done. No, I probably should have been in bed. Is the actual response. But I made myself feel so guilty for doing something that made me feel happy instead of something that made me feel like I was productive enough according to what society deems as acceptable.
Right, right. I feel like we've gotten to this pattern where we're constantly doing. And that's what we feel like we're being rewarded for, right? You do a thing and you get the value from it, like work. You do this work, and then you get paid. That's, the energy exchange. But, I say all the time that we were put on this earth to be. We're human beings, not human doings. And so if we get here on earth and all we're doing is just constantly working on getting to the next thing, doing the next thing, we miss out on the best part of this journey.
Yes. And then I know for me, like that, getting that work done also becomes part of my self-worth.
Exactly.
And now not only am I getting like that financial value, but then I'm also getting like that external validation within myself.
Mm-hmm.
So then the moment I don't do it, I'm like, I am not good enough anymore.
Right. Right. And really that has a lot to do with self. You have to recognize at a certain stage that you have the power to change your attitude about certain things. And so it takes time and effort and practice to really put that into practice and recognize that a lot of this value that we put on ourselves is it's an illusion. It's all made up. Like it's not for real. It's a lot of it is in our heads. And so we get to choose where we want to focus our attention. So like right now, for example, I'm in Mexico City and my spirit told me to come to Mexico City. Then this was like a month or so ago. So I had no plans to do this, but I heard in my spirit that I needed to go to Mexico City and I needed to be there for a month. And I'm like, well, what am I going to do for a whole month in Mexico City? And I have work to do. I have my family at home. Like I have all these things. But the constant message was that we need to recharge. We need to reset. We need time for ourselves and that the work is going to be here. It's going to get done. And that, you can't pour from an empty cup. So if I'm not replenishing myself, I can't really give the things that I want to be able to give in my work. And so I've been here now just about 2 weeks and it's been amazing. It's been productive. I've walked so much more than I walk at home. Like I really feel like I am getting the recharge and reset that I need. And so I'm feeling like I can do anything and everything, but I'm sleeping in. I'm like, eating churros almost every day. I'm having a wonderful time. And before I made the decision to come, I had to think about it because I have 3 cats at home. I have a daughter at home who's 21. She'll be 22. But, they need me. I'm the mother. I should be there. And, as a woman of a certain age, I was raised to believe that, the mom needs to be home, taking care of the house, taking care of the children and all of that stuff. And that's fine. My child is grown. She can take care of herself. The bills are paid. She can take care of the house while I'm away. So these are things that I had to process in my head before I could justify picking up and leaving for 4 whole weeks. And I have a business. I'm a businesswoman. I have a studio in Atlanta at home. So what am I going to do while I'm away? How am I going to work? How am I going to be productive? But that's what Zoom is for. We have to find a way to create balance and equilibrium and really trust our own knowing. And that's the quiet knowing. Because what we hear a lot is that loud, no, you can't do that. No, 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 no. But if you sit and you spend a little time, you'll hear the voice say, it's okay. Rest. You need to rest. It'll be there tomorrow. It'll be there tomorrow. So we have to learn how to listen to that voice, the one that cares about us through it all.
Yeah, that is so true. I love that because as women, we are often taught that we have to be the caretakers. We have to do it all for everyone else, put ourselves on sacrifice, on the back burner, and trying to unlearn those messages is very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And to even connect to ourselves anymore. I know for me, that spiritual connection sounds so unreachable most of the time because I'm so disconnected. I'm so disconnected from myself because of all these like external sources all the time, right? Like I'm so focused on what's on Netflix,
Yeah.
or what's happening on the news, what's happening outside all the time. I rarely make time what I think I need to be getting done. I rarely make time to really explore who I am underneath that surface. So it's so hard to connect with myself to even get to that like inner knowing, to be able to have that voice tell me like, take that like time to rest. Well, in Mexico City, like instead of that, you're not doing enough. You need to be doing more. Look at all the things that are happening in this world. Why aren't you saving anyone? Like that's what I am still stuck hearing. So to hear you have a spiritual connection, I mean, how do you even get there?
So one of the first things for me it took a while. So just know that you're fine, where it's never too late to get it together, to figure it out, to feel it. It really took me until I was 48 years old. Okay, so there's no time like the present. But one of the first things that I did was unplug. I had to stop watching the news. I had to stop watching the news. This was around the time when COVID first popped up. And every time you turn on the television, you see some like dreadful news about all these people dying and like just everything. It was horrible. And I realized the more that I watched it, the more harm I was doing to myself. Just my spirit, my mind, my body, my soul, like everything just felt like I was carrying the weight of the world on me. And so I really just stopped watching the news. So my number one recommendation after meditation, because meditation is great, but if you can't get to a place yet of meditation, it's just create some silence and some space. So turn off the TV. Reduce your notifications so you don't get the breaking news every 2 seconds. You know what I mean? Put things in perspective. I remember earlier this year, when the big fires were happening in Los Angeles, right? And the way that it was being talked about in the media was like the whole city of LA was on fire. Like it just seemed like it was hell and a burning inferno. And you couldn't miss it. So, even though I don't watch a lot of news, it was popping up on my Instagram feed and popping up on, Newsbreak and all of these things. And I had a trip planned to LA. And I was like, oh my God, am I going to be okay? I'm going to die. Everything is burnt up. And I got there and it was fine. Like there were really no traces of the fire where I was, except that a couple of friends that I stayed with, they had friends who were displaced because their homes burned down and things. And it's not to downplay the fires because that was tragic. It's really sad and it was on a large scale, but it didn't need to create this like just sense of dread in me. And so when we allow ourselves to focus so much on the news, it's like, man, we can't do anything. We become paralyzed because you're thinking, well, what can I do? And really the thing that you need to do is to make sure that your spirit is at ease and at peace so you can bring joy to the people that are around you. But it starts with yourself. It starts within.
That is such great advice. And unplug. I mean, so I moved here just before the fires and to LA.
Mhm.
And I remember my mom calling me and telling me that like I was unsafe. And I was like, I am physically located outside of the fires. Where my internship in school is in the midst of fires. I could not go to that.
Mhm.
But I was not physically in danger. Very real, very scary, a lot of devastation, absolutely. But the media sometimes likes to add a lot more fear. And that's very important for us to recognize because we love to know what's happening in the world. It's very great to know what's happening in the world. But at the same time, when the media is amplifying it and feeding into our fear to ignite their views,
Mhm.
it's causing us all this fear and upset. And do what you can with what you can, absolutely.
Right.
But also part of doing what you can with what you can is prioritizing yourself in the midst because back to what you said before, you have to be able to fill your own cup up first. So if you're
Right.
not doing that and you're sitting in this fear, sitting in this kind of existential dread of what do I do now? What's happening? You're paralyzed in it. It feels like the world is paralyzed in it. And then for me, at least, I feel like I just crumble into a speck into who I actually am.
Mhm. Mhm. That's why it really helps to look within. So I say if you look within, you will never be without. Once you spend some time focusing on you and your needs, like trying to bring some peace into your spirit, that's when you'll feel the fullest. A lot of times we may feel lonely if we're not around people, or even if we are around people, we can still feel lonely because we are not getting the connection that we really desire. But if you learn how to spend time with yourself in a peaceful way, in a healing way, then you'll be fine. I tell people all the time the greatest peace comes when you um, shut out the world for a moment and just really spend time with yourself.
Yeah, that is so true. And that's something I've been hearing a lot about lately is learning to just quiet your mind, quiet the world. And that's something I really struggle with. So
Mhm.
everyone talks about meditation. I love the idea of it. I do. I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to quiet my mind. I wish I could. I've gotten better. I used to be like the moment I'm alone with my own thoughts, that's it, just tears. Now
Mhm.
I live alone, I can do it. However, I can't shut off my mind. Wish I could. So, like you said, the people who aren't maybe ready for meditation.
Mhm.
But once they're taking the first steps, how do you, yes, as a plug, but what else can you maybe do to help start shifting
Mhm.
yourself to get ready to be able to one day hopefully meditate? What do I do?
Well, so let me start with there are multiple ways to meditate. And a lot of times people get stuck or stalled because they feel like they're doing it wrong. There's really no wrong way to meditate. And the key, rather than just not trying anymore or giving up after a couple minutes, is really finding out what works best for you. There is a gentleman, I was doing a meditation challenge with him, and he was saying, you don't have to quiet your mind. It's fine for your mind to be wandering. That's okay. But a lot of folks think, well, you have to be totally quiet. You have to be still, and you have to say Om, and all of those things. You don't have to do any of that. So really the key is finding what works best for you. Mindful meditation is really nice. That's like just taking a walk and observing the leaves or something like that. You can decide, okay, I just want to count the flowers or observe every time I see a red flower or something like that. So just be mindful in the moment. Yoga counts as a form of meditation. It's a moving meditation. So don't get stuck thinking that there is only one way to meditate. Find what works for you. Okay. Do some research, try multiple ways and see what feels best for you. But don't stop trying because meditation is transformational.
I love that. And That helps so much because I think I've been under this impression that meditation really has to be about quieting your mind. And that's just, I wish I could. So if you aren't able to quiet your mind, how do you start to kind of build that connection with yourself?
So you allow yourself to have the thoughts. You don't criticize yourself for having the thoughts. Sometimes the thoughts are there for a reason. You can acknowledge the thought and then focus on your breath for a moment and just see. So the key there is to not give up. Okay. So don't just stop. Set a timer for maybe 10 minutes and sit quietly for 10 minutes. Allow your mind to wander, breathe however you feel comfortable breathing, but in that 10 minutes, just kind of sit and allow yourself to be. I really think it might be helpful for you to explore moving meditation, mindfulness meditation, to see if that might work better for you. Because sometimes when we do get into our heads, we're allowing those negative energies or negative voices to take over. And we don't want that. So if you're in meditation and you're beating yourself up, that's not good. But if you're meditating and you're thinking, what am I going to eat for dinner? That's fine. Just kind of circle back like, okay, I need to breathe and just kind of focus on being here and now. I'll get to that at some point.
I think
Yeah.
what makes me in trouble is like the thoughts happen, but then the thinking happens, right? And I take one thought and I turn it into this like inner voice of criticism, and I go at myself. It's it's so annoying too because like I'm so well aware, right?
Yes.
I'm in school to be a therapist. Like I know the tools. It's so hard to stop. But there's other things I can do. One thing I've been doing a lot, started at the beginning of this year, was get out of your head and get outside walks.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's always so much happening in my little head, that I get feeling overwhelmed and frustrated and I start to shut down. So I've been just going for walks, trying to get some of that extra energy out,
Mm-hmm.
ruminating in front of a computer or in front of
Mm-hmm.
a book, and
Yeah.
trying to just enjoy environment around me. And it sounds like that's actually something that's helpful for me.
Absolutely. That counts. For
No
sure.
validation.
For sure. For sure. That counts. The other thing that you can do is when those negative voices or the critical voices come up, just stop it and say, where is this coming from? Because you know that it's not productive. You know that it's not real. Where you just ask, where is this coming from? And then just say, return to the sender. Like, return to sender. Return to sender. Where is this coming from? Whose is this? Return to sender. And then just focus on what comes next. Practice that. The other thing that I think is really helpful for people who are just getting started is to start journaling their gratitude. I don't know if you've ever done a gratitude journal, but it's you can do a journal or you can do a jar, you can do various things, but you can do it. A lot of times people suggest doing like a 30-day gratitude challenge where every day when you wake up in the morning, you write something down that you're grateful for. And it could be anything. Like I'm grateful for the orange juice that I have in my refrigerator. I'm grateful to be breathing. I'm grateful to be healthy right now. Grateful to still be here. Um, it could be a number of things. Grateful for the argument that I had with my cousin, or, like it could be anything like that. Um, or you can do it in a shorter period of time, but more intense. There's a challenge that I'm doing with a man named Light Watkins. He's really good. He's a meditation teacher, and he suggests doing a gratitude challenge every hour on the hour for a day. So like setting your alarm clock for every hour, and then on the hour when the alarm goes off, think about three things that you're grateful for, and do that from the time you wake up until the time you go to bed. And I tried it. It's really cool. It's intense. It's intense, but it really helps you prioritize and think about all the things that you have to be grateful for versus the things that you haven't done yet, or, beating yourself up for missing a deadline or whatever like that. Just what are you grateful for? Everything, everything.
That does sound very intense. I really like it though.
Mm-hmm.
So before bed, I do a sticky note as a jar and I put 3 things that made me smile during the day.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been kind of my way to allow my brain to relax so I can go to sleep without ruminating on everything that I'm convinced I didn't do good enough or how nobody in the world likes me because someone didn't answer my text once
Mm-hmm.
during the day. So, but I like the idea of doing it. I don't know if I'd be able to handle doing it on the hour every hour. But maybe a
It's
couple
intense.
during the day, right? Like
Uh-huh.
lunch and dinner time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The hourly thing is intense. It's a challenge that he has. It's a 7-day challenge to do like a to what is it? A 7-day spiritual minimalism challenge. So it's helping you to be grateful for what you have so you can let go of certain attachments that you have to material things really in this world. So I recommend it for a day. I wouldn't do that more than a day. That's a lot.
We do get, at least I do, I get so caught up in all the material things around me and what I should have or what I need to have that I often forget how lucky I am for a lot of that I do have. That's even just within me because I'm very achievement driven, which isn't always very great. Definitely causes a lot of stress, frustration, anxiety at all times. But I'm also I forget to make time to be grateful for the fact that I have this like innate motivation and drive within me that
Yeah.
external factors can't influence and take away.
Yeah.
Always just want to but I always want to keep going and keep trying. That's something that's so amazing that I often don't kind of appreciate within myself because I'm comparing to the outside what everyone else is doing. To
Right.
be able to, I mean, this just goes back to connecting with myself and seeing how great I am, what I like about me, who I am outside of this comparison within the media.
Yes. 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 It's an illusion. All of that is an illusion to distract you from what's really important. And what's really important is just being alive. It sounds so basic, but we are here to enjoy this time on earth. We're gonna learn lots of lessons while we're here. And, things will happen that may not feel good, but I realized after took a long time again to get to this place, but it took a while to see the good in every single situation. So everything, everything, what's good about this that I'm not seeing is one of the questions that I ask myself. What's good about this that I'm not seeing? That's, for example, whenever like I fly a lot, I travel quite a bit. If ever a flight is delayed or canceled or whatever, I'm always like, okay, like this is never a bad thing. I feel like this is part of the process. Maybe we avoided falling out of the sky because there were mechanical issues or, just what is the good in it? Rather than like, oh my God, I'm going to miss my connection or I'm not going to get to my vacation until, tomorrow or whatever. We can spend so much time focusing on the negative that we can't see, well, maybe, that was a close call. I'm glad that we didn't make it, or maybe there's somebody here at the airport that I'm supposed to be meeting. What is the good in this that I'm not seeing?
You must be such a good person to fly with. I, on the other hand, a small delay, I'm on the phone with my parents, like yelling at the storm.
Uh-huh, uh-huh, uh-huh.
Connection. I'm not going to make it home in time. I had this really long travel day. I was going from California to Florida and then right back to California, and I had to be back for a 7 p.m. class. And we had a delay and missed my connection, then got rerouted multiple times. And whereas you probably would have been finding the good in the moment to be okay with it, I was on the phone with my dad, like hyperventilating. I was like, I don't know how, but I need to check right now. Like, I'm gonna miss class, I'm gonna fail out of school, the world's gonna end, like this whole big thing. I ended up making it. Everything was fine. I made it
Yeah.
3 minutes before class started, actually walked in to class with my suitcase. It worked out. But it's so easy to get caught up in the stress and dramatics of it and all the negatives that are happening instead of recognizing hey, when we got delayed because of the storm, that was for safety. It could have went really bad if we got
Right.
lightning in the sky.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I believe everything happens for a reason. And I feel like such a Pollyanna when I can say these things because it's like everything is rainbows and roses. But I also believe that everything really truly happens as it should. One of the things that I've adopted in the past few years is just this acceptance that there really is no such thing as time and space, that it's all just man-made and whatever, right? And so since that, then I haven't been late for anything. I used to be like worry about being late all the time. But what I have found is that even if I'm 5 or 10 minutes later than the designated time, I'm still right on time. And I tell people that all the time, like if they have an appointment with me, yes, I do want you to be on time. That's why we have a scheduled appointment. But if there's a delay for whatever reason, it is what it is. It is what it is. We will get together. We'll see each other when we're supposed to see each other. I'll get there when I'm supposed to get there. If I'm late, maybe there is a reason. Maybe I'm supposed to miss this particular thing and be there for something else. So I just really don't let myself dwell on it. I don't anymore. And this is not something that always was for me. So I understand that hearing this, it might be like, that's crazy or whatever. Like, how do you do this? But it takes time and awareness and really just the realization that things are not as serious as we make them.
We put so much pressure on time. I put so much pressure on time. I'm like 2 minutes late to dinner, and I am like texting everyone. I'm like, I'm so sorry, my ETA is 2 minutes late. I'm apologizing for an hour for 2 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's I take things oftentimes way too seriously to a point where it's very detrimental for my mental health. It's very detrimental for me being present in the moment and experiencing joy and happiness. I'm getting so caught in my head and listening to you say this. I mean, my first thought was, how? How do you do this? How do you make these shifts? Because this is all the things I need to learn. But thinking about it, these are all the things that I was taught, that were taught to me.
Right.
Going to school, if you were 5 minutes late, you were in the principal's office getting his attention, right? Terrified all the time. The world put so much fear, I think, into me that I have to be so structured and perfect all the time that I've created this idea that structure and perfection is about fitting into this tiny mold instead of fitting into who I am.
Right, right. Well, it's all part of the journey. It's all part of the journey. And I believe the sooner you figure it out, the better, you know? There's a book that I recommend to everyone to read. If you haven't read The Four Agreements, read The Four Agreements. If you read it a while back, pull it back out and read it again from just a different lens. But it helps you very much understand what's important and what's not. It helps you put things into perspective. I think it's a very foundational book in terms of, how we get caught up really worrying about what other people think about us. We spend a lot of time like making big assumptions about what people are thinking, why they've done a certain thing. And that's a waste of time. It's a waste of time and energy because if they're not going to tell you straight up what's going on, you're going to be in your head making things up and you might never know what the truth is. And what is the point of that? What is the point of that?
That is so true. There's so many times I've made up in my head that my friends are mad at me, they did something wrong. And then when we finally talk about it, they're like, Francesca, I was busy. Like, I was stressed. Yeah. I was busy. I was not thinking about how you might feel rejected. I didn't answer your calls for a little bit. I was just caught up in a lot going on with work and stuff.
Well, so I have a couple of former students of mine who blocked me recently. And I'm Generation X. We don't really block people. We might hang up on people, but we don't block people. Or we may block them for a day. But usually that's not like the first thing. I'm just going to block them. And so the old me would have been really worried and like stewing about, well, what did I do? Why did they block me? I don't understand. And I almost got caught up in that because I'm like, I don't like to feel rejected, and I don't know what I did. And if I hurt somebody, I want to know what I did and how I can fix it. But because I've read that book and because I understand that a lot of times, most of the time, it's not me, it's them, that they're going through a thing and that, you know, it's them, that has helped me so much because I still am like, I wonder why they blocked me, but I don't let it overtake my mind. So I highly recommend to anyone who's listening to read the Four Agreements. And then when you get through the Four Agreements, read the Fifth Agreement as well. That's from the same author. But it talks a lot about how this life that we're living, we were born a clean slate. We were this fresh little baby, innocent. But as soon as we were born, we were given a name. We were given a religion for the most part. We were given a language. We were given a sex, like you're male or female. Like we were labeled as soon as we were born. And then right after that, those people that we lived with, who raised us, whoever they were, started pouring in their stuff, their fears, their anxieties, like all of their stuff. We just absorbed it all. And then when we became adults, we either were highly functioning crazy people because we have all their stuff in us, or we're not functioning very well and we're stressed because we're trying to meet these expectations of all these things that people have poured into us, even if we don't buy into it. Really, like if our spirit is like, none of this stuff is true, but we're still hearing the outside voices, that's the problem. So the Four Agreements and the Fifth Agreement, check those books out.
Oh, I will. That's so true. Everything we believe about ourselves, everything that I believed about myself was from what other people taught me. It's what I believed about the world too. So a lot of times I hear these voices in my head telling me why I'm not good enough or what I need to be doing differently. And it's usually nothing to do with me.
Right.
It's totally something that someone else has said to me that my brain has decided to internalize as its own voice. And I've been working so hard to learn to separate those out. But it's so true. We are born with a blank slate, and then we're able to kind of go back to that a little bit, figure out who we are before those voices, or if those voices never happened. That's so powerful. Okay, so as we're wrapping up, what are some of these small intentional shifts? I know you've mentioned it to you already. What are some more small intentional shifts that we can begin to make so we can start connecting with ourselves?
So number one is to make time for yourself every single day. You are the priority. I hear a lot of people say, I don't have time to meditate. I don't have time to do this. Schedule time on your calendar. 10 minutes is your meeting with you. That is the most important meeting of the day. Number one. Number two, get outside, exercise, enjoy the sun, enjoy the moon, enjoy, just the earth. Ground yourself, get from in front of the computer. I can get stuck up in front of the computer for hours and hours. It's not good for our spirit at all. So get outside, whether it's for 10 minutes or an hour and 10 minutes, just get outside at least once a day, every day. Number three, read. Get some good books and read. Personal development is really helpful. So like I said, and I'll keep talking about the Four Agreements because I really am an advocate for that book. The Four Agreements and the Fifth Agreement are foundational books. And the fourth thing that I would say is to practice gratitude for every single thing, even the bad things, and just ask yourself, what's the good in this that I'm not seeing? What's the good in this that I'm not seeing? So those are the main tools that I would say. And then lastly is always another one. Don't take everything so seriously. It's not as serious as we believe it is. It's more serious and more important to keep yourself whole and aligned. And in order to do that, you have to take some time to get to know who you are and why you're here.
Those are Amazing. I'm adding to the top on my calendar from now on a 10-minute meeting for myself. That is so smart. I'm always telling people, oh, schedule in time to go for a walk. Schedule in here. I've never thought about like scheduling in just time for me. Myself. So meditative maybe. I love that. Thank you so much for joining me today. As we are wrapping up, what's one last thing you'd like to leave our listeners with?
Enjoy life. Enjoy it. It's a playground. It may seem like it's an intense playground and sometimes people aren't playing fair, but that's all right because we each have everything that we need in ourselves to succeed. So keep looking ahead, but be present and grateful for the moment.
That's for people listening who want to connect with you. How can they do that?
They can find me on Instagram at Dr. Makeba for Love 222, or on my website at www.drmakebaforlove.com.
Thank you so much for listening to Normalize the Conversation. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. This podcast is an initiative of Inspiring My Generation, focusing on normalizing the conversation, bringing education and awareness to the forefront, and amplifying global voices to spark change and hope. Inspiring My Generation is a 501c3 nonprofit organization on a mission towards suicide prevention through awareness, conversation, education, and support. Connect with us on Instagram at Inspiring My Generation and visit our website inspiringmygeneration.org to learn more about our work and how you can make a difference.